Give us the reasons why now is the right moment to hand over the reins.
Well, first of all, I'm not sure what I'm going to be doing after I leave as a CEO in here as well. But look, this is an orderly transition as well. I've been with the company now for 7 years. We've gone through a lot of, positive changes and transformation, and this has allowed the board to do a thorough search. And I'm so delighted that they chosen to appoint Kenton, who's the current CFO of the company, as CEO. He'll be a great leader for this as well. But I'm immensely focused to deliver a great summer, and land the initiatives that we have ahead that's going to also deliver opportunities going forward. So there's still some time away.
Okay, 2025, early 2025. We'll have another discussion then about what you're going to do next, as maybe the plans begin to firm up. Let's talk about the summer. Michael O'Leary out the other day saying he sees maybe prices not being as high as he anticipated this summer. What are you seeing in terms of pricing this summer? What does visibility look like?
Well, first of all, I think it's fair to say that we haven't given any views on the exact what the pricing is going to be. There's still too much capacity left on the market. As an example, we have only sold 39% of the capacity that we have here in Q4, which is our July, August, and September. But what we are saying is that look, we have a positive demand. We booked more than 1 million more passengers this summer than compared to this point in time last year, and we're seeing that yields are slightly up. If you're looking into the Q4, load factor is also ahead, and we expect also revenue per seat to be slightly up in the quarter that we are in. But it's still too early to determine actually what the fare environment will be. But it is a positive demand that we've seen from the previous summer continuing also into this year.
Okay, Johan, good morning. Very nice to speak to you. Can I ask you a little bit about the EasyJet Holidays business and the extent to which, how that's doing? Are you concerned about others, like the likes of Ryanair signing deals with travel agents coming into that business? And what does it tell us? You've had a background before you were at EasyJet, more than 7 years ago, a background in package holidays. What does it tell us that the sector is embracing that kind of product once again?
Well, EasyJet Holidays is an absolute unique business model. It cannot really easily be that replicated because it builds upon the network that we have. And there's no other airline in Europe who flies from the primary airports more than we do to these beach and the leisure destinations. It also builds on the trust of the brand that people have with EasyJet as an airline. And also we have a great team there in place. And this is going to deliver over 170 million of profits for the company this year, and it had also a very, very strong winter behind it. So it's very, very unique. 7 to 8 out of 10 times when you book an EasyJet Holidays, you're getting a 4- and a 5-star hotel cheaper than you can get anywhere else, and you're getting also at one of the most connected airlines in terms of the frequencies. So you got flexibility, you got a very, very attractive pricing in there as well, and that is not easily replicated by anybody else. But it's a great success and hugely well done and executed by the team.
What does it tell us about the consumer, though, Johan, that they want that kind of packaging? Because years ago, the whole point of the low-cost airline sector was to unbundle everything and allow people to only pay for the things they really valued. And now we seem to be bundling back again.
Well, I'm going to reveal how old I am, but I remember one of the first meetings when I joined this industry. This was back in in the end of the 80s. One of the first meetings I was part of was actually to say how we're going to save ourselves from the threat of the death of the package industry. Look, this form of travel provides extraordinarily attractive pricing because it really drives on value. But the difference is now compared to what this was previously and with our model is that you can use it in a flexible way. So your duration isn't long. Just a 7 nights holidays or a 14 nights holiday. You can fly and decide to fly, in the morning or in the afternoon. You can stay for 3 nights. You can stay for 6 nights, and that flexibility is unique on what you can do with us. Together with the fact that we have large volumes, so we get really attractive deals from the hoteliers, and all that value is translated into the consumer. So it's a different type of package holiday compared to what you've seen previously. And like I said, we're exceptionally pleased with the performance about that.
Johan, on the aircraft issues, you don't face the same issues, of course, as some of your competitors when it comes to Boeing aircraft. You rely on Airbus, and you don't face the same kind of supply chain issues, arguably, given Pratt & Whitney is not something that affects EasyJet. To what extent does that give you ambition to carve out market share, then, from Wizz and Ryanair, given that they can't run some of these routes? What is the market share you can take from your competitors?
Well, I think if you're looking at this summer as an example, we are growing, among the fastest. If not, we're growing faster than anybody else with an 8% growth that we clearly can see is higher than our competitors on the network. So, and that is a result out of the fact that, we have getting the deliveries from Airbus on time. I think we're probably one of the only airlines here in Europe who got our scheduled deliveries on time, 16 of them coming in this year. So, we got a big growth this summer, 8%, and that builds upon the winter where we also had, increased capacities of about 12% as well. But we look at this from a route-to-route basis. This is very targeted growth. We know we want to increase our presence at the prime airport, but we also open up new bases, Birmingham, Alicante. Today we also announced we're investing in our 10th base here in the UK, Southend, and that is just all reflecting on the fact that we have these opportunities for growth because we do have the capacity.
What's the biggest risk at this point?
Well, I think it's usually the things that you actually you can't control. You can mitigate the risks you can't control to hopefully a large extent, but clearly there is uncertainty in the geopolitical environment that we're operating in, and that's something that the industry has to live with ourselves. But we see that there's a positive demand coming into the summer. Operational disruption is clearly an issue always in the summertime. We know that the airspace is congested and there's more capacity being in there. But I think also the whole of the industry is better prepared for it now than it's been in previous years. So we're looking forward to take our customers on a great experience this summer.
Johan, if the Bank of England cuts rates, if the ECB cuts rates, will we see a pickup in consumer demand? Is there a direct relationship, do you think, at the moment between interest rates and the consumer and EasyJet?
It's not that big of a difference because some of these things are whether the interest rates goes up and down when it puts a squeeze on the financial households is offset a lot by the fact that people prioritize their discretionary income, very heavily now on travel and holidays. And we've seen that's been consistent since actually coming out of the pandemic. This is the number one thing that people want to do. I think that the one thing that is always important and that do play, I think, a more important part than interest and so on, is more about jobs. If, people are in jobs to get certainties about the jobs and an income, then that is the thing that really, really matters. So, and that continues to look okay going forward. But I think mostly it's about the fact that people really prioritize their holidays and the travel.